Everyone, I'm going to call to order the Board of Zoning and Appeals for April 19th. If we can stand for the pledge, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Sergio, if I can get roll call, please.
Let's go with Drago Popovic, Brendan Sheeran,
Here.
Nancy Woland,
Here.
Mark LaRue, and John Kennedy,
Here.
Attorney Adam Decker,
Here.
Councilman Brian Blazak, and maybe Town Engineer Ken Kraus. Okay. You have a quorum.
All right, we have a quorum. Next on the agenda is we have minutes. I don't know if the board had time to review from the March 15th, 2021. If there's any comments, questions, if not, I'll entertain a motion.
A motion to approve the minutes.
I have a motion to approve by Brendan. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
There's a second by Nancy. Comments, questions, if not, roll call.
Drago Popovic, it just arrived.
It's a motion to approve March minutes. Okay.
Brendan Sheeran,
Yes.
Nancy Woland,
Yes.
Mark LaRue, and John Kennedy.
Yes, motion approves 3 with 1 abstention. All right, just for some housekeeping, hello, everyone. So tonight, how it usually goes, when we call the petitioner will come up to the podium, present your case to the board or your appeal. There will be some discussion, comments or questions potentially from the board. We'll have a conversation. After that's done, I'll ask you to sit down or step to the side, and then verifying that we are able to have a public hearing, I will open it up to public hearing. We will hear if there's any comments that Sergio might have received or the town might have received electronically, via mail, or any comments you hear tonight. Then I will close the public hearing. Then the petitioner might want to come up and address any comments or questions that were addressed during the public hearing. Then we'll have more discussion, and then I will ask the board to entertain a motion on your petition. So just a little general, we're easygoing, so it's going to be a nice, easy going back and forth. So with that, I will have the first petitioner, public hearing for a special exception. Now, this is just a recommendation from this board. This will then go to the town council. So is this to make a recommendation either in favor? And so if the petitioner wants to come up, Doctor, you're going to have to tell me out. I'm sorry. I apologize.
We both need to go up?
Well, it's up to you, however you want to go. And do us a favor, state your name and address for the record.
Sure.
Because this will go into our minutes.
Sounds good. Abhishek Nagaraj.
And I'm Anushka Guglani.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Thank you.
So if you would just give us a little brief on what you're looking to accomplish.
We're just trying to open a dental practice at the 9484 Wicker Avenue location, provide dental services.
We're a husband and wife team. So we're looking to, come into St. John and serve the community here.
Okay. Any questions, comments from the board?
No.
Couple questions. Is this do you have another business elsewhere
Yes, in Illinois.
in Illinois?
Yes.
Okay. Any issues at that facility?
No.
Okay. How many I don't know if you call them, how many chairs will you have?
We're
I believe
gonna, it's gonna be built out for 9, but we're gonna start with 3. and
So
then-
the parking situation at the facility you think is,
It's excellent.
It's good. Very good,
okay, so
actually.
you'll have 9 employees, potentially 9 people in the, just want to make sure there's
Yes.
appropriate parking access.
Yeah, our
Absolutely.
landlord is here and she can attest to that.
Okay. At the public comment time, or public hearing, thank you. And then hours of operation?
We typically 9 to 6 Monday through Friday, and 9 to 3 Saturday.
Okay, very good. All right, hearing no other questions, if you wanted to step outside or take a seat, I'm going to open up the public hearing.
Sure, thank you.
Sergio, at this time, is everything in place for the public hearing?
Everything's in place for the public hearing.
Everything in place. At this time, then, I'm going to open up the public hearing regarding the special exemption for the dental metal offices at 9484 Wicker Avenue. Did we receive any correspondence?
We have not received any correspondence.
All right. At this time, is anyone from the general public would like to make a comment? Again, state your name and address for us, please.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Letty Macris. We're the owners of the building there, Shops of St. John, address 1611 Zephyr Court in Munster, Indiana. We'd like to say thank you for providing us the opportunity to be able to speak and to let you know that we are in full support of having this business established in our plaza. We think it's going to be a wonderful addition. There's certainly a need in St. John, and we welcome them being there and welcome having you consider them.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you, we appreciate it.
Is there anyone else that would like to comment? Going once, anyone else? Going twice? Public hearing is now closed. Petitioners, if you want to come back up. I don't think you need to address any comments. It's all in favor, so.
Awesome.
Any additional questions or comments from the board? Again, this is a favorable, unfavorable, or no recommendation, which will then go to the town council for final approval. So if there's no more questions, I will entertain a motion. And if you would, can you please reference the finding of facts or read the 7 finding of facts? Thank you. Yes.
Well, I'd make a motion for a favorable recommendation.
I have a motion for a favorable recommendation. If you can read the findings of facts.
Yeah, that's why I don't like to make that first motion. That the establishment, maintenance, or operation of the special exemption will not be detrimental to or endanger the public health, safety, morals, comfort, or general welfare. That the special exemption will not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity for the purposes already permitted, nor substantially diminish and impair property value within the neighborhood. That the establishment of the special exemption will not impede the normal and orderly development and improvement of the surrounding properties for uses permitted in the district. Adequate measures will be taken to provide ingress and egress so designed as to minimum traffic congestion in the public streets. And that adequate utilities, access road drainage, and/or necessary facilities will be provided. The adequate measure will, in all other respects, conform to the applicable regulations of the zoning district in which it is located, and that the special exemption will be required to comply with reasonable time limitations on the commencement and duration of special exemption, as well as the holder of rights to the same.
Well done, sir. All right, so I have a motion. Is there a second?
I second that.
There's a second. Discussion, comments, any conditions or contingencies with that recommendation? Hearing none. Sergio, roll call, please.
Drago Popovic,
Yeah.
Brandon Sharon,
Yes?
Nancy Woland,
Yes.
Mark LaRue, and John Kennedy.
Favorable recommendation is approved. Congratulations. Well, you still got to go to the town council, but
Thank you.
very good. Have a great evening.
Thank you so
You
much.
too. Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Next on the agenda is we have a variance to locate a second storage shed at 8836 Patterson Street. Brittany and Colin Ray. Again, if you would just state your name and address for the record and your petition.
Sure. Can I remove this while I talk? Hi, I'm Brittany Ray. I'm at 8836 Patterson Street in St. John, Indiana. First of all, thank you for considering to hear my petition for the second shed. The second shed is of much need for our family because we do have an above-average size yard for being in St. John. Our yard is over 2 acres, in which we need larger equipment like a riding lawnmower and a push lawnmower and, lots of stuff to be able to make sure that our yard is maintained. We do have a first storage shed, which is where we store all of those items currently. So what we're really looking for with the second shed is to be able to store the things for our children. We have 4 young kids. They're 7, 5, 3, and 1. So our family is definitely growing. And in order to keep our kids safe, we would prefer not to have them access the main shed right now that is facing Patterson Street, because that shed is just too close to the busy street for their safety. And also, all of the equipment that my husband uses to maintain the yard is also in that shed, and that can just be dangerous for them to be in as well. The second shed that we are asking to have put up would be on the side yard, and that wouldn't look cluttered. We have a good-sized yard. It wouldn't look cluttered. It would help to keep our yard actually looking neater, because we would have a spot to put away all of the toys that our kids drag out day in and day out. So I thank you again for hearing me out.
Any questions for the petitioner? I think you answered my question. I was just wondering, just adding on to your existing shed, but you've answered that with your comments, so thank you.
Okay.
Hearing no questions and comments, I will open it up to the public hearing. Sergio, are we good to go to a public hearing?
We are.
Have we received any correspondence?
We have not received any correspondence.
So the public hearing is open. Is there anyone from the public that would like to comment? I will ask again, anyone from the public would like to comment? Hearing no one from the public, no comments, I'll close the public hearing. At this time, is there any questions or comments for Brittany regarding the second storage? If not, I will entertain a motion regarding this. This is our decision, so it is approve, deny, or defer. And again, just housekeeping, this stays with the lot. I'm not saying that we ever want you to leave, but if you ever decide to leave, the future owner has the same rights.
Sure.
It stays with the lot, not with the
Sure.
property owner, so. If not, I will entertain a motion or further discussion.
You guys have a plan, like a specific shed that you're,
We do. I have a picture. I can grab it. That would help. So this is what it looks like. Our shed will not be red because we have a blue home. The colors that we picked out are gray and ebony. So where the red is, it'll be ebony, and then where the roof and the trim is will be gray. So we'll make sure it will match and not stick out like a sore thumb.
Just question, your neighbors didn't show up, so usually that's a sign, silence is a form of consent. That's
We
how I always look.
we're pretty wooded in right
I
now.
know exactly,
so,
I go by
yeah.
your house.
Yeah.
Just travel, okay. Okay. And depending on the motion, if you would also read the finding of facts with your motion. Now, we wouldn't have to do anything because she's under the 250, they're under the 250, so we wouldn't have to. make
Correct.
any-
She's under the 250 square
still
feet.
under
It's
the
the second
250.
accessory structure. Yeah, shed, I should say. Second shed.
Because usually if you're an R1, you could have 2 structures, but
Mhm.
because there's a special ordinance.
It's the accessory use versus the number of sheds. So in this case, she's under the accessory use, square footage use, but in this case, it's over the allotted shed number.
Right.
I make a motion to approve for the second structure, and that the approval will not be injurious to public health, safety, morals, comfort, or general welfare of community. The use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner, that the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will not result in practical difficulties in the use of the property,
Or that might be will
or
result. Okay, so I have a motion referencing the finding of facts. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
I'll
there-
second it.
Look at that.
All right, Nancy, we'll give you the second. Discussion from the board, conditions, contingencies. If not, hearing none, roll call, Sergio?
Drago Popovic,
yes.
Brendan Sharon,
Yes.
Nancy Woland,
Yes.
Mark LaRue, and John Kennedy.
Yes. Motion to approve passes 4-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is we have for a development variance to encroach into the rear and side yard setbacks at 9640 Industrial Drive per machine. We have Lee Milazzo and Jim Weezer.
Oh, sorry. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the Board of Zoning Appeals. My name is Jim Weezer. I'm an attorney with offices at 429 West Lincoln Highway in Schererville, and I've been privileged to represent Lee Milazzo for a number of years. And I say that so I can just kind of lay the groundwork for you so you understand what the request is and who the individual in the company are that are making that request. Lee has the distinction of having built the first building in the industrial park back in 1996. And he built that for his business, and his business has been determined to be an essential business. And what they do is they provide and they equip and they rebuild existing equipment and items for the canning industry. And they do this not only nationwide, but they do this internationally as well. And he's been fortunate and had an extremely successful business there, such that I think it was in 2007 he added an additional building there because his business was growing, which is the reason why we're here this evening, because his business continues to grow, and he wants to add. I think it's approximately 9,000. Is that it? Here, come on up, Lee. 9,000 square feet to further provide the benefits of his business to the corporations and companies and clients and customers that he has. I'll let Lee toot his own horn here for a second about something I think you should be aware. But in so doing, in laying out this building, and given the nature of the size that he needs to accommodate his addition, we encroach on the side yard and we encroach on the rear yard, and we're asking for relief from that. There's an additional issue I will simply make you aware of. It doesn't directly involve the Board of Zoning Appeals, but Adam and I have had a discussion earlier today about that. The building will actually go into and overlap on an existing drainage and utility easement. The only utility that's in there is NIPSCO, and we've provided a release from NIPSCO to Sergio. They've released their easement. The other is drainage, and that's an issue that Adam and I discussed. I think we know what, I think I'll kind of take Adam's lead on that. I think we know what we need to do on that, but it certainly isn't a matter before you this evening to consider. It just simply is to provide you some additional information. So what I'd like to do before we conclude and then we go to questions and the public hearing is I just want Lee to make a couple of comments if he might. Go ahead, Lee. Tell me about your export thing.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for hearing us on this one. As Jim said, my business continues to grow, which is a good thing, particularly in the environment we're in. And I'm currently renting a warehouse down in Lowell, and I've got 6,000 or 7,000 square feet. And we store used equipment down there. It's kind of our boneyard, if you will, that we go and we'll pull equipment back up to bring it to St. John, do a rebuild, and ship it out to a customer. Well, with it being down in Lowell, it's a half an hour for my people to go down there, it's a half an hour drive back, I'm just losing a lot of productive time. So 4 or 5 years ago, I purchased 9640 Industrial, which is the site we're talking about, and there's a cabinet shop in the existing building there. I actually bought it for the real estate that is behind that building and want to put the addition up there. It would greatly improve my business flow and time efficiency with my employees, as well as the reason for the angled wall on the rear end of the building and why we approached NIPSCO was I need the extra length on it to put an indoor loading dock. One of the things we do, it's Murphy's Law. If it's, inclement weather, we still have to load a flatbed or equipment, and it's kind of dangerous, particularly in the winter. You've got a 25,000-pound forklift, you get snow on the forks, you're trying to load a piece of equipment that weighs 20, 30,000 pounds, and to do it in a controlled environment inside would be greatly beneficial to us and add safety to the whole cause. As Jim said, we were there. I moved in September of '96, one of the first buildings in there. And, we worked at it hard. I came there with a secretary and myself, and we now have about a dozen employees. 2011, we were surprised and nominated and then awarded Exporter of the Year for the entire state of Indiana for our export efforts. So, we're doing what we can. But once again, thank you for your consideration on this, and I'll turn it back over to Jim.
And I have nothing further, Mr. Chairman, other than to add that with the addition of the new part of the building, we also anticipate the employment of several other employees as well.
Okay.
So that's our presentation, and thank you very much for hearing us out.
Great. So any questions or comment from the board? So Adam, you had conversations with Mr. Weiser regarding a drainage easement that I would imagine is owned by, or is that our drainage easement?
It is, Mr. Chairman, I believe the drainage easement, which is indicated on the site plan, this is the western, I believe it's 20-foot drainage and utility easements marked, is probably marked in the original plat of subdivision. So when the plat was considered and approved, it was part of the plat at that time. So I believe the drainage easement would benefit the town of St. John. That's the intended beneficiary of that, so I believe that's correct.
So how would this change in, so it would be rear yard? How would that, does it overlap the drainage easement then?
So,
Because I guess,
yeah, I would ask, I would defer to Sergio on the specifics, but the issue that Mr. Weiser and I discussed had to do specifically with the westernmost boundary, if you would, on the site plan, where there's indicated the drainage and utility easement. And so I believe the request tonight is for the variance from the development standard to encroach on the rear and the side yard setbacks. So setbacks are a little bit different. That's part of the town code provisions, but there's this other issue that Mr. Weiser and I have discussed, which actually involves the easement itself. So that won't be taken up or resolved tonight necessarily, because that probably will involve plan commission review or action. I know the town has considered that in the past, and Sergio actually provided me with some information, so we still have a little bit more homework to do as far as the easement is concerned. But again, that's not something that's really before the board tonight, which is simply the side and rear yard setbacks that are being considered.
What was the results of it when you considered it in the past?
The one case that the town that I'm familiar with was in 2016. It was a plat of easement reduction and certification that was submitted to the Plan Commission. It was for a residential subdivision, and the lot itself, I think, held a 50-foot easement in the rear, and that was reduced to 20 feet. The Plan Commission will be entertaining one this Wednesday for review or for consideration for a 20-foot rear yard drainage easement, reducing it down to 10. So if this should move forward, or as this moves forward, we'll just have to require the same process, which deals with a plat of correction, or plat of easement reduction and certification. So that way the Plan Commission, as part of their review, they'll look to see what the impact is to the drainage. We'll have to have drainage calculations and
And we don't have that as of yet with this
no,
property?
not with this.
Although that's not at this moment in our purview?
It's not as part of this preview, correct? It's, the consideration is to vary from the setback requirements for the side and rear yard within the zoning code.
Okay.
But if we make a decision to allow them to encroach or to minimize their rear yard setback, then aren't we actually authorizing them to enter the drainage easement?
No.
No?
this is-
Chairman,
Okay.
I don't believe we are, because it's a separate.
Because then it goes
it's
to
a
Plan
separate issue.
Commission to review the drainage easement on
Okay,
its own.
I'm just asking the question, to make sure I'm dotting my i's and crossing my t's, that's all.
Right, so, whatever decision the board would make tonight does not address the issues about encroaching into an easement, which would have to be addressed separately. So,
All right. If there's no other questions, I will open it up to a public hearing. Sergio, are we good to go to a public hearing?
We are.
We are good. So the public hearing is now open regarding minimum side yard setback and minimum rear yard setback for Relentless LLC. Public hearing is now open. Any questions or comments from the board or comments from the public? Again, any comments from the public? Hearing no comments from the public, I will close the public hearing. Public hearing is now closed. Any questions or comments from the board? Adam, so you said you're comfortable with us moving forward with any type of recommendation at this time, even though it might?
yes, I don't have any reservations with the board taking the matter up and rendering a decision this evening.
Okay.
So how many feet you said you're encroaching onto this drainage easement? 8? Looks like. And that extra 8 feet's fundamental to the operations facility?
I'm sorry.
So we're encroaching on this west easement 8 feet,
Yes, sir.
and that 8 feet's an absolute necessary for your operations?
And it is, if I may. Typically, buildings have a square back wall.
Mm-hmm.
This is where I want to put my loading dock in, so I want to be able to get a semi all the way in there, and for flatbeds or even, box trucks. And the one thing I've learned is when you build a building, build the biggest one you can, because you don't, you're coming back and putting an addition on it. I've made that mistake previously. One of the problems here in this industrial park, and not my fault, no one here's fault, these lots were too small when they were developed. They were too narrow, they just, maybe they're okay for, this little business, but if someone wants to grow their business, they're not. So trying to maximize it as much as you can is really important.
So the southern border of the wall would be adjacent to your existing building? It would run,
I own, I've got my main facility here, and then the building I built in 2002 for the next lot.
so you own the building to the south?
Yes, 2 of them to the south.
Okay. And then, of course, to the west of you is the embankment, then it leads down to the railroad tracks.
Right. And this building here, this was the building I've had it on to 3 times before I built building number 2 and then hopefully number 3. And we had to go through and get a release of easement from NIPSCO on this one as well.
And your neighbor to the north, which you'll be within 10, or close, from 30 to 10 feet.
Yeah, we've got 10-foot easements here originally, then the town changed them to 30-foot, if I'm remembering correctly. But there's, when
And-
you're dealing with a 100-foot lot, you can't have, when you have 30 on the left, 30 on the right, you've got a 60-foot, a 40-foot buildable lot, which just doesn't work.
Okay.
So originally it was 10 foot and 10 foot, which is, that's how everything is built in.
And it's a vacant lot, and it's not a vacant lot, but there's no other building north of that yellow line. It's all,
Yeah, there's a building here, an existing building.
but not in the rear. It doesn't go all the way back to the rear, though.
No.
Yeah, okay.
And if I'm allowed to do this, this building here is looking a little tired. At the same time, I'm going to improve this and put an underlit mansard on it. I want to dress it up, but it's not to my standard. So it would be a comprehensive approach.
As far as the depth for parking the semi inside the building, the small portion that's towards the front, I don't know, yeah, a little higher up.
Oh, here?
Yeah. Would you be able to build that out instead of, to make it, to get your depth?
Well, what I want to do is, I want to have a loading dock door here. I want to have a surface door here and a door here as well. So then this creates a courtyard for me and the approach to the loading dock. So if I were to fill this in with building here, it would screw up the driveway and parking lot, and it would make all of this too tight. So we go back the truck, it'll go inside the building, and then this is unobstructed.
So, I mean, I'm going back to this drainage easement, that it's gonna be encroached on 8 feet, so what happened, then it will go to the plan commission, and then the plan commission needs to make a determination on the reduction of a plat, or, and then what if the plan commission, and I'm throwing out hypotheticals, what if the plan commission says no, then how does it affect whatever decision is made here tonight? I'm just,
Yeah, so, Mr. Chairman, I think your hypothetical, if the board approved the variance from the development standard, it goes to the plan commission, and as Sergio indicated, they would have to consider a plat of correction or plat of easement correction to essentially approve the reduction in that easement for this lot. If that was denied, then I think at that point, the applicant would still have to perhaps reconsider, because that denial by the plan commission effectively would not allow the construction of the proposed improvement into the easement. That would essentially would be an encroachment on the easement, which could be enforced by the town at that point in time.
Excuse me, if I might add, Mr. Chairman, then we'd be faced with having to make a decision as to how we wanted to utilize the approval that we would receive. It's kind of a chicken and an egg thing, because if we went to the plan commission, I can't guarantee. I could guess that the plan commission would say, well, wait a minute, you got to get side yard and rear yard variance before you come to us to ask for a drainage, for a reduction in the drainage easement. So it kind of cuts both ways. So in this case, in the event that we, assuming we receive favorable approval this evening, we have the side yard and rear yard. That's the main consideration. In what we like to believe is the unlikely event that the plan commission would not grant a reduction in the drainage, then my client would be faced with the idea of, okay, maybe having to redesign the building to or reconform the building to make it work and to make it fit.
Sergio, has Ken looked at this? Had he had any comment? Ken Kraus? Has Ken Kraus had anything as a town engineer?
The only discussion him and I and Attorney Decker have had is with regards to the plat of easement reduction. We have not received any comments with regards or posed any questions to him with regards to the drainage concerns on that, so. You could see the most recent aerial there on your computer as well. So I believe it's this lot here.
And your boundary to the south clips it a little bit too, doesn't it?
Excuse me, was that directed?
Did someone
at
say
us, or-
something? I apologize.
Oh, the building to the south clips into that drainage easement a little bit too, doesn't it?
It doesn't.
Yeah.
I had received a release of easement from NIPSCO on that when I put that addition on years ago.
But you had to get the permission, you went through the same process before to get that?
Not for drainage, only for the release of the NIPSCO easement.
But you still went over the setback, so you would have had to go through the BZA at one point, right, or no? Because you're over the line as it is, that's what I'm saying. So you had to go through this process back then too, no?
I honestly don't remember.
I wasn't involved in that one. I'm not aware of having to get any reduction in the drainage, in the drainage easement.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is you would have had to come to us or our previous body to go over that easement line.
To go over the setback line?
Yeah, setback
Yes,
line. You're
that's
over-
true. Yeah,
that's what I'm
that's
saying.
true.
So you went through this
He-
process
He was
before.
here, yes, he was here before.
That's what I'm asking. Okay.
Yeah.
For my time.
Before our time, yeah.
Are we aware of any issues with drainage in that area that would give us pause? I'm not familiar, Councilman, I'm not gonna put you on the hot seat, but are you aware of any issues with drainage in that area, just,
This land is flat all the way to about here, and then off of the tracks.
Ditches
there's
down.
natural ditches, the tracks up high. So, I've been here since '96, and there's never been any water issues whatsoever.
okay.
Can I ask you a question?
Certainly.
I see right now, there's probably, several vehicles parked back there. What are you gonna do with all that parking?
These are not my vehicles. There was a contractor in town who approached me to put 5 or 6 trucks.
Okay.
Store, so I did, and it's turned into Mission Creek, and you see what you have here.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
it seems like, what the heck are you gonna do with all these?
Yeah.
These are your trucks.
I
What are
want
you gonna
those
do?
to go away as badly as probably you do, looking at them as well.
Hope so.
They'll be gone.
All right. Any other questions or comments from the board? If not, I will entertain a motion. Again, this is a approve, deny, or there is defer. So any one of those three. And if there's any, and would you recommend any conditions or contingencies hypothetically based on whatever the outcome is? But it seems like it's automatic that the plan commission will have some sort of final say. So it's nothing that we have to potentially put in here if there's concern with the encroachment of 8 foot onto a drainage easement.
Right, that's really, I mean, the board could make, if it were inclined to approve, to make it conditional upon plan commission approval of the plat of easement correction. But as I discussed earlier, I don't think that's necessary because, I mean, the plan commission will review this. I think, council and I and Sergio and Ken have agreed that there'll have to be some additional further consideration by the town as to this easement. And so, if the board approves it without a condition, that's still going to happen. That review is still going to happen by the plan commission.
All right. And I would imagine I'm just throwing out hypotheticals again, because I like hypotheticals. We could approve one and not the other, correct?
When you say one, not the other?
We could approve maybe a side yard and not a rear, or we could approve a rear and not a side yard. Do we have that discretion or no? And again, I'm just throwing out hypotheticals just to see how, I don't know how the board feels. I haven't heard questions or comments. So I'm just throwing out different scenarios that may or may not be eligible.
Right. So your hypothetical, and Mr. Chairman, I dread hypotheticals as an attorney, but what you're proposing is not complete relief, to give partial relief on maybe
Okay.
one or the other. I mean, I believe the board has discretion, but I don't know that there would be any reason or purpose to do that necessarily. But
Just the crazy thoughts that run through my mind, so, all right.
You're crazy.
What is the pleasure of the board? So Ken Kraus is aware of this? Yes. We could potentially, let me ask the question, and sometimes it's just, are you does a decision need to be made today because you need to get this done by building time?
talk about
Because the only thing I'm thinking of that might put me a little bit, not that I'm, is, because I understand the plan commission will have final review, and Ken Kraus is the city engineer that will probably review any drainage concerns and give us a recommendation. So if you have to wait for the plan commission, hypothetically anyways, I don't know when your next meeting, you would go to the plan commission in May? No, June. And again, I'm just,
Yeah, let me answer your question. I kind of teed this up in October, November with Craig Phillips, I believe his name was. And there was some personnel changes, and then there was a void. The building cost from October, November to March has gone up $52,000. That's what I'm faced with.
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah, if I could just embellish that, the first time we approached the town of St. John to get this matter on your agenda, which was supposed to be for December, was with Craig Phillips, and I went over it with him, as did Lee. Lee went over it with him, I went over it with him, and we were getting prepared, and then he was no longer, actually, I might have started with Rick Eberly, at least maybe with Rick in just general questions, with Craig Phillips, and then Mr. Phillips was no longer here, and I came to the town on 2 occasions and said, we really want to get the ball rolling here. Can you help us? And admittedly, it was just clerical staff, and they couldn't even locate an application form for me. So we waited until Sergio was named, and when Sergio was named, we immediately came in to do it. So is there a sense of urgency? We think that, yes, we think that there is, and there's been a lot of cost increases, as Lee pointed out, in the interim.
Okay. With that, Nancy, any questions, comments, gentlemen?
No, I'd like to make a motion to approve, but I do not have the document in front of me, all the 7 steps.
Well, it's 3,
It's
Nancy.
just 3, yeah.
And if you
3?
want to, I will read them,
Okay.
and then you can tell
I'd
me
like to make a
will or
motion.
will not. So the first one is approval. It's either will or will not be injurious to public health, safety, morals, comfort, or general welfare of the community. So are you saying will not?
Yes.
All right. The use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will or will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. Would you want to go with will not?
Yes.
And then the final one, the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will or will not result in practical difficulties in the use of the property. And I'm assuming Nancy
Will
would
not.
go with will not. I have
Right.
a,
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. So I believe
oh, will
under the
result.
third item.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Nancy, it's will. I'm sorry, will.
That gets me every time, too.
Well,
Will result in practical difficulty, saying that if we apply the strict applications, it will. Thank you, Adam. So those are,
Thanks.
that's her motion. Is there a second that will open it up to discussion? Second doesn't mean you have to vote in favor of it. I've learned that rule.
I'll second the motion.
We have a second. Is there any discussion now at this point? So, Adam, question for you. I know the Plan Commission, Ken Kraus, could a contingency saying on approval from Ken Kraus that it will not adversely affect the drainage in that area? Again, I think I know my biggest concern is how the encroachment on 8 feet on a drainage easement will have on the long-term effect of this
So,
area.
Mr. Chairman, rather than make it conditioned upon an opinion from Mr. Kraus, if the board's inclined to go that route, I would suspect, I would recommend that it be conditioned upon Plan Commission approval of the.
Which you
That's
just
what I
said.
would- that's what I was
Which you
thinking.
said we just,
So we
we
can-
really don't need because it
Well,
has
but
to get.
that's, but I would
can defer
recommend
our
that as
decision.
opposed to simply making it conditioned upon the opinion of Mr. Kraus, whether it,
In other words, you can defer your decision based on what the plan commission says and then readdress it if the plan commission says there's no problems with this.
Well, the motion is to approve.
Approve,
Right.
but everyone else can vote their own way.
Yeah, I know,
Yeah.
I know. But I don't understand how you're saying the contingency is.
I'm saying if if it was deferred and then after the plan commission
Yeah, well,
goes
that's-
through all this.
that's another
legwork,
option. That's
it comes
another-
back to us with their approval.
Okay, so we have a
I'd be more
motion.
comfortable than myself.
Okay. So Nancy, I don't know if you heard that discussion. It was just talking about the other option is to defer. So we will go through your motion. If there's an option to defer, waiting on approval from the plan commission, then that would be the pleasure of the board. So hearing no other discussion, we have a motion and a second for approval. Currently, no contingencies.
No, I motioned, but I didn't approve.
There's a motion to approve. Now we will vote.
Okay, I got you.
Your second just gives it open to discussion. It
Gotcha.
doesn't mean that.
I got you.
Is there any contingencies with that motion for approval? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Drago Popovic,
Yes.
Brendan Sharon,
Defer,
Wait,
I
it's either
can't
yes or
or
no.
no, sorry.
Nancy Woland,
Yes.
Mark LaRue, absent, and John Kennedy.
No. So we have a tie, it doesn't have a quorum, so would it be no just defer?
No,
Or
that
we
means
would
we're
have to
going to
make
have to
another
come back.
motion. We would have
That
to
means
make-
we're going to have to come back to you.
You would have to come back to us.
So that'll delay it another month for a matter that isn't even part of your, with all due respect to you guys, it shouldn't even have been, I should have shut my mouth. If I'd have said nothing tonight, we would have been out of here 20 minutes ago, because it isn't within your jurisdiction. I understand you're concerned, or there's a concern about the drainage. Don't get me wrong, I get that, but you have an entity, the Plan Commission, and you have an engineer who's going to make that determination independent of your determination from a jurisdictional perspective. The BZA has no jurisdiction over that issue at all. At all.
But I understand what you're saying, Jim, but at the same, I don't know what this will cause with the drainage. And I understand you're saying that that's a plan commission issue, it has nothing to do with yours. But I think we have some issue with just making sure the general condition of that area is safe.
I get that, but you have nothing in front of you. You have no report from an engineer,
And that's why I think
because,
the motion to approve didn't go through, because we don't have that.
and you won't get that next month because it's not your jurisdiction.
I agree with you, but I'm against going over the easement, period. Drainage or not.
So going
that's
over
way-
the setback?
The setback. That's the way I would have voted anyways. But I was willing to defer it, so the plan commission came back and said, okay, then I may have.
So then
reconsider- I may have
but you'd
recon-
still, Brendan,
I
you'd
may
still
have-
be opposed to it because,
I may have reconsidered, but at this point, I'm against building. I mean, you know what you had, you know what the easement's there. That's what you gotta work with. Easement's there for a reason.
the Board of Zoning Appeals is here for a reason, with all due respect, and that is in justifiable conditions and circumstances, you grant variances. That's what the BZA is about. If,
But
Brendan,
we
if
don't
you don't
grant
think it's
everything that's put in
justifiable.
front of us just because we're told to grant it. If
I'm
there's an
not
easement
suggest-
there,
I'm not suggesting that you should.
okay, well,
I'm not suggesting you should, Brendan.
So right now, there is no recommendation because it doesn't doesn't have a quorum, a vote. Adam is, maybe I misunderstood, is what Jim, and Jim, I have no question, but I'm just verifying with our attorney, is what he's saying accurate? I mean, he's saying we have no jurisdictional responsibility. My concern is
No.
not knowing what the drainage is, and I understand he's on a time crunch, but I guess there's always that backstop.
So, Mr. Chair, I'll answer the question this way.
Maybe I made this more difficult than it has to be.
The state statute basically provides that in order for the BZA to approve a variance from the development standards, the applicant is required to essentially provide evidence to the satisfaction of the board that the approval will not be injurious to public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. That the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner, and that the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties. I think the board, in its decision tonight, is well within its rights to have considered the presentation and made a determination perhaps that it needs to further evaluate whether or not the approval will or will not be injurious to public health and safety in the context of the drainage easement, and perhaps also that the applicant has not established that strict application of the zoning ordinance, the current setbacks that are required by the ordinance, will result in a practical difficulty to the use of the property. So I think the board is within its legal rights to have made determination. If it's decided not to approve the motion to approve the variance tonight.
Mr. Chairman, if I just might, but that's not the issue, Adam. I mean, it is the issue in the question that you were asked, but the issue is they're not approving or denying, they're deferring. They're simply going to defer.
Well, Mr.
That
Weezer,
was
I
the-
don't,
I
I
think
don't
that
think
was the
they've made
vote.
that. I haven't heard, I don't know if there's any decision made yet to defer anything. I think they simply took a vote on the motion
Okay.
to approve the variance from the development standards with no conditions. That's what I understand was before the
Okay.
board.
So then if I could understand, Adam, just to make sure, so then they have the right at this point in time, because a 2-2 vote, as we all know, isn't sufficient, so they would have the right to reconsider some other motion
Yes.
rather than just say, okay, the motion didn't pass, so you come back next month. They can do something else.
We can make a motion to defer, deny,
Yeah, okay.
or, so with that, with now Karen
And I
Corn.
would even submit that it could also consider a motion to approve with other conditions. So I think that's also available to the board as another option at this moment.
So Nancy, if you would redo your motion and having a better understanding now, that we put a condition in there, and Adam, can you state what you stated before, that it would be based on approval from the Plan Commission?
An approval of the Plan Commission, right, approving a plat of easement correction. If it goes right to the Plan Commission and the Plan Commission reviews that, I believe Mr. Kraus, the engineer, would review the application. I submit that it might require some type of application to the
Sure.
Plan Commission.
Yeah.
But that the motion to approve the side yard and rear yard setbacks is conditioned expressly upon approval by the Plan Commission of the plat of easement correction, which that process will require review by the town engineer.
Nancy, are you comfortable with making a motion with that contingency in there? Because then, I believe I
I
would.
am.
Okay,
I am, but, exactly what Adam had said. So it depends on the Plan Commission approval and the engineer.
Sergio, do you have that? Are you comfortable with that?
Yeah.
Motion to
I am.
approve based on condition of Plan Commission, plat easement review, and Ken Krause's?
Yes.
Is there a second for that?
Approval of that easement
Mentioned
correction, yes.
Approval of that easement. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
There's a second for a motion to approve with the condition of Plan Commission, plat easement reduction, as well as Ken Krause's review and opinion. I have a motion and a second. Any comments or discussion? Roll call.
Drago Popovic,
Yes.
Brendan Sharon,
Yes.
Nancy Woland,
Yes,
Mark LaRue's absent, and John Kennedy.
Yes. So the backstop will be the Plan Commission.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your
Thank you.
consideration. Yep.
Yeah, if they had Ken Kraus saying, yeah, everything's good.
Well, your first line here is injurious to public health. We don't know that. I mean,
But that's why
That's what I said, that was the whole point. I agree, but that's the whole point. I understand it's not our purview, but our first line that we have to accrue is
Yeah.
injurious to public health.
All right. Do you enjoy that in the back row? You're up next. Maybe I should have told Jim to sit down and
Just gotta wait it-
let you come up first, but.
It was a little longer than usual.
That never crossed my mind. All right, so next on the agenda, we have a development variance to exceed permit accessory storage footage at 11407 West 108 for James Opoff? All right, James, thanks for your patience. If you could state your petition to the board, please.
Yep. Thank you all for taking a few minutes to hear my petition, consider it. James Upoff, I reside at 11407 West 108th Avenue. Last year, my wife and I put in a pool and a covered pavilion in the backyard. And our intention was to put a shed on the property to complete the project, so we had adequate storage for lawn equipment and patio furniture, pool accessories, things of that nature. So we went through the approval process, permit, inspection, and approval on the covered pavilion and the pool, and everything was good. So this spring, I went to go ahead and order a shed for the property, and I wanted to put in a 20 by 14 shed. So the company, Yoder's Portable Buildings, who you guys are probably familiar with, they have a few businesses in the area, told me that St. John requires a variance for a shed that size. You need to be within 160 square feet, and I have to have a permit in hand in order for them to deliver a shed onto the property. This is a pre-made shed that they're going to essentially drop. So I went to the Building Planning Commission, and they said that they would send an inspector out and that I would need a variance for a 10 by 16, for a 20 by 14 shed. And so my wife and I decided, let's just go with the 10 by 16. We went through the website, and the restrictions are 160 square feet. So we decided we're just going to forego the size of the shed that we wanted, get a 10 by 16. And the inspector came to our property and said that the pavilion is an accessory structure, which I was very disappointed because it was approved as a pavilion. It wasn't approved as an accessory structure. It's actually 20 by 14, so I didn't need a variance last year through the approval process. So I assumed this was a slam dunk to get a 10 by 16 shed, which is within the restrictions of the town. So I went ahead and ordered a 10 by 16 shed from Yoder's. And by the time I applied for the permit, that's when I found out that, well, now I have to apply for a variance. So I was disappointed because that's not the size that I actually wanted, and I didn't want to go through the process of requesting a variance. So it's cost some money and time. So I appreciate you considering my request. I just want to put a 10 by 16 shed on the property to hold our equipment.
All right, thank you, sir.
There's no setback issues or anything like that with this?
Nope.
It's an acre and a quarter.
Oh, yeah, it's got plenty of room back there.
Yeah.
Questions, comments? When we sometimes had situations like this in the past, we've put a maximum capacity on square footage. Do you think that's necessary in a case like this?
That's what his request is to
Well,
exceed the
He's
permitted,
actually, because he's
because he's over
280.
280 plus
He
the
ordered the
160.
160 shed. The 280 he foregoed, right? The 160 shed's used, the one you
We
paid
have a
for.
250 maximum.
250 max, yep.
Max, so sometimes when people have gone over, just, and I haven't opened it up to public hearing, we have in the past, and that every one is unique. I'm just giving you examples. We've said, okay, you add the 280 plus the 160, he's maxed out at 440.
Oh, you're talking between the two structures?
Yeah, you just max it out, this is something we've done.
I got you.
Yeah.
Mr.
It's
Chairman.
it's just a, but that doesn't mean it has to happen here. I'm giving you an example, so, all right. Any question? Do you go by Jim?
James. actually.
James? No? Any question for James? All right, Sergio, are we good to go to public hearing?
Yes, we are.
All right. With that, I'll open it up to public hearing. Have we received anything?
We have not received no correspondence regarding this matter.
Okay. Seeing no one in the general public here, anyone online? Closing public hearing. Public hearing is now closed. I'll bring it back to the board. Is there any questions? Comment? If not, I will entertain the motion. Just remember, number 3 is the opposite of what you think it is. So,
I'll make a motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve. You're gonna have to go through those.
That's why I don't like doing these.
I know, you do a good job.
Approval will not be injurious to public health, safety, morals, comfort, or general welfare of the community. The use and the value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. The strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property.
With your motion, do you have any issues with putting a contingency of maxing
I don't have any issues with contingencies.
of a 440 for auxiliary structures on the site?
Yes, no, I put on contingency like.
You're good with that?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve with a contingency of auxiliary structures maxing out at 440 square feet. I believe that gives you the 160 plus your current 280. With that, is there a second?
I second it.
There is a second. Any questions or comment? James, are you good with that contingency on this approval?
Yep.
He's approved. Okay. With that, roll call, please.
Drago Popovic,
Yes.
Brendan Sheeran,
Yes.
Nancy Woland,
Yes,
Mark LaRue is absent, and John Kennedy.
Yes. Motion is approved. Thank you, James, for your patience.
Thank you, sir. Can I have 1 minute to address the board?
Next on the board is public comment. So
Okay.
There you go.
name and address, please, for the record. I think we got you. You're good.
I just want to say that I read online on the website, and I went through it pretty meticulously, and I don't feel that it's very clear what an accessory structure is. I think that it lends for the inspector to have to make a discretionary decision sometimes, and potentially they're going to err on the side of caution. And I think in this case, it's not on the side of common sense. I think that one could also say a playhouse or a tree house or a lean-to over a wood pile is an accessory structure. A pergola, I see them all over. Costco, $1,200, 12 by 12 covered pavilions on all kinds of patios in the town. So I'm not trying to cause problems. I only want to help you prevent them, prevent future misunderstandings. So I recommend that the board takes a look at how it's written, just to give further clarification for the inspectors or the residences if they want to add structures to their property.
James, that was very well spoken and articulate, and I appreciate those comments, because the last thing we want to make things as,
Yep.
as easy as possible and simplistic, so.
I understand if you didn't go through this process like I just did, then you wouldn't understand what I'm trying to say. You know what I mean? So that's why I'm trying to help. So.
I appreciate the comment, and it's a beautiful site, and, I drove by it yesterday just to look at it, and I totally understand what you're saying, so.
Got it. Thanks.
Especially with a lot that big. Was those 2 lots back in the day?
Yeah, so I moved from Lansing about 13 years ago and bought the whole 2.5 acres and split it into 2. And basically a buddy of mine bought the next door property, and then I bought this property, and we both built houses and been raising.
The one to the west of you, because that's a beautiful.
Correct,
that's a
yep.
beautiful
So
house,
we've
too.
been raising our families there for 13 years, and we love it here, so.
Thank you. And I appreciate those comments. That's stuff we need to hear, so thank
bet.
you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Good luck.
All right, gentlemen, we good to adjourn?
We have Great Lakes Orthopedics.
They are not here.
Okay, that's on.
That's deferred.
Thank you.
Do we need to make a Since it's on the agenda, should we make a motion to defer the Great Lakes, or is there anything we need to
I
add?
would suggest you do it, just to make, it's on the agenda, yeah.
I'm
so-
sorry, so gentlemen, I went out of order, and Nancy, I apologize. Can I get a motion to defer item E, the development variance for Great Lake Orthopedics? If I can get a motion to defer?
I make a motion to defer.
I got a motion to defer, is there a second?
I'll second.
Roll call, Sergio.
Drago Popovic,
Yes.
Brendan Sharon.
Yep.
Nancy Wolland,
Yes.
Mark LaRue is absent, and John Kennedy.
Yes, that will probably be on our next agenda. All right, we are adjourned.